Young and the Restless spoilers reveal Sharon's emergency call left Nick panicked. Sharon opened her eyes, feeling pain spread throughout her body. The air around her was cold and gloomy, only the faint light from a dim light bulb hanging from the damp ceiling. She tried to sit up, but her head was spinning and everything around her became unfamiliar. Where am I? Sharon wondered, trying to remember what happened before. Her mind was blank, only a gnawing feeling of fear remained. In a panic, Sharon reached into her pocket and suddenly realized that her phone was still there. Hope flashed through her mind. Shaking, she dialed Nick's number, the only person she could trust in this desperate moment. Nick clutched the phone, Sharon's every word cutting into his heart like a knife. He knew he had to act quickly before it was too late. Sharon, stay calm. I'll find a way to locate your phone. Don't hang up, talk to me, okay? Nick didn't waste a second. He rushed into his office, turned on his computer, and called his tech friends. I need to locate some phones right away. This is life and death. His voice was urgent. Nick quickly put the pieces together. He remembered that there was an abandoned factory near the railroad tracks in the south of the city. That might be where Sharon was being held. Sharon, I think I know where you are. Just hang on, I'll be there soon. Still, Nick was plagued by anxiety. He didn't know if he would make it in time, or if the kidnapper would act rashly before he got there. He called the police, but he set off on his own, because he couldn't just sit there and wait. Nick kicked the gas, his heart pounding. He couldn't lose Sharon, not now, not when he had a chance to save her. When Nick arrived at the abandoned factory, everything seemed to match Sharon's description. He took a flashlight and a stick for protection and cautiously entered. Meanwhile, the police were on their way, but for Nick, every minute of waiting was torture. Just as they were about to leave, police sirens sounded outside. But at the same time, a dark figure swept through the hallway, causing Nick to turn back. Whoever did this. I can't let him get away. He told Sharon to stay with the police, and then dashed into the darkness in pursuit. Faith Newman couldn't contain her emotions any longer. Every minute since Sharon's disappearance felt like a knife stabbing at her soul. As her worries and fears mounted, Faith turned her anger on Mariah, the person she felt was responsible. You're so self-righteous. If it weren't for your stupid decisions, Sharon wouldn't be in trouble. Faith yelled, her voice shaking and filled with tears. Mariah froze, her eyes narrowing at the sudden accusation. Mariah understood that Faith was just overwhelmed by emotion. Sharon was the center of their family, and her disappearance had devastated everyone. Mariah didn't protest, just nodded, trying to stay calm. Faith, I know you're hurting. I am too. But I need you to believe that we're all doing our best to bring Sharon back. Some time later, when her emotions had subsided, Faith realized her lack of control. She walked into Mariah's room, her eyes apologetic. Mariah. I'm sorry. I shouldn't blame you. I was just scared. Mariah smiled, pulling Faith into a hug. It's okay, Faith. We're all going through a hard time. I understand. Mariah also felt like she needed some space to relieve the pressure. She decided to ask Tessa Porter out, to find the bustling atmosphere at Society Restaurant to relax. We need an evening to forget everything. What do you think? Mariah suggested, her eyes filled with anticipation. Tessa agreed immediately. At Society, the warm atmosphere and soft music helped both of them temporarily forget their worries. But this evening was not quite as they expected. When Tessa accidentally dropped a glass on the floor, the glass shards flew into her hand. At that moment, a strange man appeared with a bottle of antiseptic spray in his hand. He quickly and skillfully treated Tessa's wound. Mariah squinted, realizing that it was Ian Ward. Ian Ward, who had caused a lot of trouble in the past, now appeared with the appearance of a reformed man. His presence immediately made Mariah raise her guard. Thanks for helping, Tessa said, smiling gratefully. But Mariah couldn't let it go so easily. After Ian left, Mariah turned to Tessa. What is he doing here? Showing up when I needed help, it seems too coincidental. Tessa, not understanding Mariah's meaning, shrugged. Maybe he just happened to be there. After all, he helped us, right? Mariah sat in her room, lost in thought. Ian had a way of making people believe he had changed, but his past was not easy to erase. She began to wonder if he had an agenda behind rescuing Tessa. Maybe he's trying to prove something to me, Mariah muttered, as if to herself. Or maybe, he wants to build trust to carry out some scheme. Although Ian appeared friendly and helpful, Mariah couldn't trust him. The wounds from Ian's past manipulations were still fresh in her heart. He may pretend to be a reformed man, but that doesn't mean he's really changed, Mariah told herself. Meanwhile, Ian appeared in a corner of the city, smiling knowingly. He held his phone, looking at a photo of Mariah and Tessa sitting in a restaurant. One step at a time, Ian whispers. Everything will be as I wish. Little does Mariah know that Ian is secretly watching her. But with her keen intuition, she senses that this will not be the last time Ian appears in her life. Mariah vows to not let anyone, especially Ian, hurt the people she loves. What was supposed to be a relaxing evening at society turns out to be the beginning of new troubles. Mariah realizes that she must always be on guard, not only to protect herself but also to protect Tessa. Has Ian Ward really reformed, or is this just an elaborate act? And what will Mariah do to deal with his hidden schemes? Everything remains a mystery, but one thing is certain, Mariah will not back down in her journey to protect the people she loves. Victor Newman, the head of the powerful Newman family, always had his own way of handling sensitive matters. When his security guards tracked Ian Ward down, Victor decided not to hand him over to the police immediately, but instead forced Ian to go to the Newman farm, where Victor's power was clearly evident. Ian appeared at the farm, trying to appear calm. Victor, I don't understand why you did this. I've changed. I came back to Genoa not to cause trouble but to make amends, Ian said, his voice even as if he wanted to convince. But Victor's cold eyes showed no trust. He stood up from his armchair, walked closer to Ian, and growled, "Do you think I'll believe your lies? My family is suffering terribly because Sharon is missing, and you showed up at the right time. How do you explain that?" Ian did not back down, keeping his half-smile. "Victor, if I wanted to hurt Sharon or your family, I wouldn't have come back to this town. I'm trying to start a new life, and I don't know anything about what happened to Sharon." Chapter 2, Nick Newman confronts Ian Ward. Nick Newman, who had always been suspicious of Ian, couldn't hold his composure any longer. He stormed into the room, angrily pointing at Ian. "You're lying. I know you had something to do with this. What did you do to Sharon? Tell me." Ian raised his eyebrows, looking offended. "Nick, I understand you're heartbroken and looking for someone to blame. But I'm not the one you're looking for. Sharon was a good woman, and I would never hurt her." Nick didn't accept Ian's explanation. "You're always up to something. Last time you destroyed our family, and now you show up when Sharon went missing. Don't try to play innocent." But Ian stood his ground. "If you don't believe me, that's your problem. I have nothing to do with this." Victor stepped forward, interrupting the confrontation. He looked straight at Ian, his eyes piercing as if they were piercing through him. "Ian, I'll make it clear to you. If I find out you're involved in anything that's upset my family, you'll have no chance of defending yourself. I'll make you disappear from Genoa City, and I'll make sure no one finds you." Ian tried to keep his cool, but Victor was unpredictable and intimidating. He smirked, and said sarcastically, "I understand your threat. But you should know that I sent a letter to the police, in which I made it clear that the Newman family would be responsible if anything happened to me. If I disappear, that letter will be made public." The answer remained in the dark, but one thing was certain, no one in the Newman family would sit idly by and wait for fate to decide. Tensions are running high, and the confrontation between Ian Ward and the Newmans promises to be even more dramatic in the upcoming episodes. Subscribe to Yandar for the latest news on our channel.